What's up, YouTube gamers? It's your computer engineering gamer with some fresh new content. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is a role-playing game developed by BioWare in 2003 as the first Star Wars RPG based on the popular D20 system. This system of combat originated from the Star Wars role-playing game developed by Wizards of the Coast, the current owner of Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, and the Pokemon TCG. Knights of the Old Republic as a byproduct of the role-playing game is derived from the 3rd edition of Dungeons & Dragons released in the year 2000. The release of this edition won many awards in the role-playing game genre. With the flying success that D&D had, it is not hard to see how basing a game set in the Star Wars universe would garner another wildly successful venture. With this setting in the D20 system, however, many uneducated players of the roleplay genre might struggle to comprehend all of the attributes, what they mean for your character, and how the game uses these dice rolls to operate. Well, today gamers, I'm going to break it down for you as simple as possible so that you can metagame your way into playing KOTOR how you would like to play with all the knowledge of a fully fledged RPG pro. Another thing to note, I will keep it simple for the sake of this video and use KOTOR 1 to evaluate the language and the dice system, as KOTOR 2 uses the same system, so the knowledge should transfer over. To begin our journey through KOTOR's system, it is important to understand the language that will be used in the game, as well as its translation to D&D and how I will use it in this video. Throughout the game, you will see some addition and subtraction signs to gear, looking at your stats at the beginning of the game. These are referred to as modifiers. Whenever you take action against an enemy to hit them, defend yourself, or pass skill checks, this modifier will affect your final result on your in-game checks. For example, you need a 12 to hit an enemy. Let's say you roll an 11 on the dice. This would not hit. However, you have a +2 modifier, and therefore your final total roll would equal 13 and you would hit your target. More on combat to come later. These are modifiers for almost every aspect in the game, so this will come up a lot and it is arguably the most important concept to grasp. Next is the feats. Feats are akin to proficiencies in the D&D universe, and they allow you to have passive abilities and unlock actions that you can take on your turn beyond that of just a regular attack. You will want to read each feat carefully before you make a decision, as it will affect your stats based on what you use. For example, if you place feat points into dueling, this works for a single weapon in the main hand. This +1 modifier to defense and attack will not be utilized in the event where you use 2 weapons at once or have a 2-handed weapon that fills the offhand slot. Next up is DC. When reading some feats, force powers, and weapon abilities, you will see a DC with a number or other additions. The DC stands for difficulty class, and generally means the number you will need to beat to be successful on a roll check. This will have many examples. Lastly is a saving throw. A saving throw is made when an attacker or other item like mines and grenades are used against the character. This will generally save you from the worst conditions or allow you to ignore effects altogether, hence why it is called a save. Starting out, you must create a character and select your starting attributes and skills. You begin with 30 points to allocate into stats, starting at 8 points in each category, and allowing a maximum of 18 for a single attribute. When you allocate skill points, you can see that it changes your modifiers in these specific selections. A quick overview is: Strength modifies your melee chance to hit and damage. Dexterity modifies your ranged hit chance and armor bonus. Constitution modifies your health gain per level and fortitude. Intelligence modifies your skill points gained on level up. Charisma modifies your persuasion chance and force total and effects. Wisdom modifies your force total and effects and wisdom. One of the major things to note in this game is you only gain or lose a modifier point on an even attribute score. So if you have a 14 in strength, adding an additional point to equal 15 will have no effect to the character's ability. However, it is not without loss to have an odd number, as there are many equipment items in the game that will add a single point to an attribute and will take an immediate effect on your modifier bonus. Skills are used to pass in-game checks against objects in the game, like detecting mines or slicing computers. Skills are rolled in a way that are directly added to the total of a dice roll. If you have a demolition skill of 8, then when a d20 is rolled and you roll a 12, your skill of 8 would be added to the total roll of 20. In this case of skills, sometimes you fail a check, but it is not impossible to accomplish. This is thanks to the d20 system. If a door has a DC of 20 to open, with a single point in security, your character would need to roll a 19 or a 20 to open it. Not very good odds, but you could stand and wait to open it after getting a good roll. If your character has a skill of 10 in security, then they only need to roll a 10, so there's a 55% chance to succeed. In reality, if you do not make a successful saving throw over 5 or so checks, then you will either have a really low chance to succeed, or not be able to succeed at all. Some doors and checks will show impossible, and you can skip those. As far as I know, KOTOR 1 has no checks used on live enemies. KOTOR 2 changes this by implementing stealth checks against opponents who are Sith assassins. Your awareness is then rolled against their stealth check to notice them before they attack you and negate their sneak attack damage bonus. Moving on to weapons, armor, and saving throws, we got ourselves a doozy here, folks. Armor is the easy explanation, so I'll go with that first. The defense score seen on the left of the character equipment page is the base number that an enemies will need to beat to score a hit against the character. Characters start with a base 10 defense, and then proceed to add defense and modifiers. Body armor will have a defense and a max dexterity bonus. The armor is the strict addition to your defense, and the max dexterity is the amount your modifier is allowed to add to your defense. For a character with low dexterity, such as a +1, a high base armor is better to improve the overall defense. A character with a high dex, however, can benefit more from a lower defense with a better max dex modifier. If a character with a +4 dexterity equips an armor set with 9 defense and a max +1 modifier, their defense can only increase by 10. However, if they equipped an armor set with 7 defense and a +5 max dexterity, they can increase their defense by 11 with an extra point to gain. It is important as the player to manage your build with the armor you equip, armor proficiencies you want, and points to place in the dexterity attribute. On the attacking end, your weapons are affected in different ways on their chance to hit. When managing this well, you can be sure to sweep through enemies without getting caught in the frustrating loop of attacking and missing until your health is whittled down. As stated before, strength modifies melee and lightsabers, and dexterity modifies the range attack chance to hit. Weapons themselves will sometimes have the passive stat of an attack bonus, or upgraded at the workbench to gain an attack bonus. These bonuses are added to your base chance to hit using the d20 dice. When making a roll, to hit, you must meet or beat the enemy's defense, meaning if the enemy has 12 defense, you will need to get a 12 or higher. Your attack bonus can be seen under the weapon, and if dual wielding or using a two-handed weapon with 2 chances to hit, a second hit chance will show. For now, I want you to focus on making these numbers as high as possible using force crystals, attributes, and weapon modifiers. I will explain the difference in your choice of weaponry following this. For weapon damage, this will be displayed always with a range of damage. This is based on a range since the rest of the game. It is based on a dice roll, with some modifiers. When a weapon has a damage range of 1 to a number, the weapon is rolling a dice with that many sides. So, 1 to 6 damage weapon rolls a 1d6, or a single 6-sided die. If you see a weapon with a non-zero first number, you may remove 1 from that number, and that is the additional damage that will be dealt. So a weapon with a range of 4 to 11 has a 1d8 with an additional 3 added to rolls. Some weapons will also have modifiers in fire, ion, energy, sonic, or physical damage. Ion sometimes has a special property where it will only deal extra damage to droids, but it will say this in the description on the weapon modifier. On your attacking roll, if a critical hit is rolled, you will then multiply the damage by the number listed in the weapon description and add any crit damage modifiers if there are any as well. The dice system becomes important to weapon upgrades and lightsaber crystals, as some of them will display a range of damage. This is essentially adding a dice to your damage rolls, and a weapon with a range of 1 to 8 that rolls a single 1d8 will become a 2 to 14, which rolls a 1d8 and a 1d6. Knowing what the physical representation of these numbers means can help you in the long term for understanding your damage rolls and maximizing your damage output and attack roll efficiency. Next on the category stemming from weapons is saving throws. Weapons will come with status infliction, as well as force powers will generally have a DC of 5 plus the attacker level, plus the attacker wisdom and charisma modifiers. When making a saving throw, it will be in one of 3 categories: reflex, fortitude, and wisdom. Fortitude is akin to a constitution saving throw in D&D, where it comes from the character's willingness to embrace a hit and keep moving. Reflex is backed by dexterity and is based around agility. Wisdom is backed by, you guessed it, wisdom. These 3 categories will be called upon when saving against a grenade, mine, attack from a feat, or a force power. Your saving throw will be made at a roll of a d20, with your score in the relevant category based upon the action to be added to your roll. Having a decent score on all of your throws is important, as you will need to be able to save yourself from all these different sources of danger, especially in the late game when enemies' levels are higher and added to their attacking rolls. Next up, I'm going to explain some of the major feats, specifically the ones with modifiers based on what I previously covered, and how they can be utilized in a playthrough. For ones that are straightforward like power attack, armor proficiencies, and implants that enable the use of different gear, I will leave that to you to read. The 2 attack feats I will mention are the critical strike for melee and sniper shot for blaster users. These skills multiply the critical range of a weapon so that you are more likely to land a critical hit, as well as a stun chance. However, there's a keen weapon upgrade that adds on to the weapon's critical range. When applying the multiplication to a weapon with keen, you would first multiply the base value, then add the keen modifier. For example, a weapon with a critical range of 19 to 20 has a 10% crit chance. If keen makes the crit range 17 to 20, then the chance is 20% and keen added 10%. When making a master critical strike, and it is 4 times the chance to crit, you would multiply the base 10% by 4 for 40%, and then add on the 10% for keen, landing at a total 50% chance to critical hit. Outside of attacks, the main skill additions are Caution, Empathy, and Gearhead. These offer strictly 1 to 3 additional points per level to differentiate areas of your skills upgraded on level up and help with these check rolls. Also, I'm talking about your feat level, not your character level. Conditioning is a safety feat which allows you a bonus from 1 to 3 for all saving throws made by Wisdom, Fortitude, or Reflex. This will help protect you from any status conditions or force powers made against you by enemies and is helpful in all styles of builds to remain undeterred in battle. The Jedi Sentinel and Guardian abilities are straightforward, but the Jedi Consular ability covers what we talked about previously with difficulty class, so I will mention it. The Master Force Focus for a Consular on level 12 will get a +4 to the DC of their force powers. This means that enemies will have to make a higher roll to save against the force powers of the main character, and their save will now be the same DC of 5 plus the level, plus the Wisdom and Charisma modifiers with the additional 4 points. So if you have a high force build with roughly a +3 in Wisdom and a +3 in Charisma, you would have a DC of 5 plus 20, plus 3, plus 3, plus 4, which totals to 35. This results in the target needing to roll either a critical 20 to save, or a 19 with a saving score of 16, which is highly advanced. You would most likely affect any enemy, and that's why consular builds are especially good when you understand the system. Lastly, the weapon style feats. First, to get out of the way, Unarmed has no special feats attached to it in KOTOR 1, but in KOTOR 2 there are feats to help. Dueling is only usable when using a single weapon that takes one hand. This covers a single blade lightsaber, a blaster pistol, or a melee sword in your main hand only. This will apply a +3 to attack and defense when fully leveled, so you plan to use a single blade, it is 1000% worth it. Now the contentious point. 2-weapon fighting. Yes, the title says 2-weapon. However, under the umbrella of 2 weapons is a double-bladed lightsaber and blaster rifles, and heavy blasters that fill both hands. Again, however, this only works if it is not on the Xbox, as there was a bug that kept it from activating for double-bladed weapons. I'm not entirely sure if it is fixed on the port to newer consoles, but it should be fixed for mobile and PC. Anyways, if you plan to dual wield, this is absolutely crucial to your success in the game. Without it, you will receive a -10 chance to hit in your offhand and a -6 chance in your main hand. Since you can't do much if you can't hit your enemy besides force powers, if you plan to dual wield and attack with weapons, you should level these up as soon as possible. I'm not going to go into the detail of every force power. Like the feats, you can read on those, and the names of them are pretty descriptive for what each power does. What I can say is that you should absolutely use passive force powers in your playthroughs. Force Speed and Force Valor can be 2 of the most overpowered powers on any build. Anyway, I will touch on your alignment and its effects on your force powers. There are 5 light side force powers and 5 dark side force powers. At full light side alignment, the force cost of these 5 are half, while the other 5 dark side powers are increased to 175% of the base cost. This will have the inverse effect when switched to the dark side. The 175% cost is a great deal to incur, and if you focus on an offensive force build, you might want to take a look at the dark side, since 3 of the dark side powers are damaging, while only 1 light side power deals damage as well as only affecting droids. When using dark side powers, the Force Storm ability will deal with droids almost as easily as destroyed droids, so there really isn't much to worry about for that loss. It is also not a big a deal to have passive force abilities cost more, since you will likely activate it before you start a fight and focus the rest of your abilities to direct combat. Beyond the Force, your alignment will net you extra bonuses based on your Jedi class and whether you are light versus dark side. As you look at this chart here, the Guardian prioritizes damage in melee combat. The Sentinel focuses on survival and poison immunity, and health gain with Constitution. And the Consular focuses on maximum force and force abilities. Any of these should benefit you as long as you don't use Blaster as a light side Guardian increasing strength. And that is your complete guide to the Dungeons & Dragons dice-based system implemented in Knights of the Old Republic. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it a bunch if you subscribed. You can also check me out on my Twitch, where I generally play the games you see on this channel. As of now, I am playing a Dark Side Force only playthrough of KOTOR 2, mixed with Dragon Ball and Xenoverse 2, some ranked grinding in the finals, and very occasionally some previously known as FIFA, but is now known as EA FC co-op seasons. If you feel generous enough, I have a link on my Twitch to donate that I plan to use strictly to update my streaming and recording setup for these videos. With that out of the way, thanks again, and remember, a man is lost without the sauce, but that same man can get lost in the sauce. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Later, gamers.